Aloha and good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to This Is Now. I'm Dylan Ancheta in the H&N Digital Center. First at noon, a public health crisis. That is what officials from Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center are declaring following a rise of gun violence out in West Oahu. They just wrapped up a press conference a short time ago to discuss how it's impacting the community's mental health and well-being and are exploring a roadmap for better public health response. Here's some of what was said.
But when our community is repeatedly expected to be resilient without sufficient resources to recover, it takes a significant toll. Our community is experiencing an emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion that for some has led to a sense of hopelessness.
In this moment of this public health emergency, it's important to realize the roots of the discord, why this is happening. And much of it really points to a chronic lack of public health infrastructure, and that in turn promotes a lack of hope for a better future and a lack of trust that the status quo can make things better. We've tried to fill the gap as a community health center, but we need more concerted and collaborative effort from city and state entities to be able to do that.
While the health center is already providing holistic care to help community members during this difficult time, they are calling for more assistance from the government and other community leaders. We're going to have more on this story in later editions of Hawaii News Now. Because Hawaii is so dependent on imported goods, there's growing concern over a looming dock workers strike across the U.S. East and Gulf coasts. This has potential to devastate the nation's consumer supply chain. Kelsey Kushner has more from the Port of Baltimore, one of the many areas that could be impacted.
Work at some of the busiest ports in the country, including Baltimore, could soon come to a standstill.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port, a lockdown.
The International Longshoremen's Association, which represents 45,000 dock workers at 36 U.S. ports, is threatening to strike if a new labor agreement with shipping companies represented by the U.S. Maritime Alliance is not reached by October 1st. Dock workers from Texas all the way up north to Maine are demanding better pay and protection from automation. Economists warn a strike could have a devastating impact on the economy.
There's a reason why this is so critical to the economic health of Baltimore. And there's a reason why we're really going to start feeling this impact pretty quickly if this strike goes through.
J.P. Crail, professor of accounting at Loyola, Maryland, says every year the Port of Baltimore alone supports thousands of local jobs and brings in billions of dollars worth of goods, including car parts and produce. Although a short-term strike would not cause a major disruption, Crail says a prolonged strike could disrupt more than half of U.S. shipping traffic.
We're already seeing people start to shift where they're shipping goods, and the West Coast is kind of benefiting as the East Coast is losing out on that.
Although the Maryland Port of Administration is not directly involved in the negotiations, officials tell WJZ in a statement, "We implore both sides to come together and negotiate an agreement that properly compensates the men and women of the ILA while maintaining cost-effective and efficient cargo flows."
A federal grand jury has indicted Ryan Ruth on a charge of attempting to assassinate former President Donald Trump. The Ka'ava resident was initially charged with 2 federal firearms offenses. The updated indictment alleges Ruth did intentionally attempt to kill the former president in his hours-long stakeout at Trump's Florida golf course while he was armed with a rifle. Ruth remains in federal custody pending trial. If convicted, he faces a maximum penalty of life in prison. Hawaii Island police are asking for your help to crack a case in Kailua Kona. They're looking for this man who is wanted for stealing a spear gun from a store on Luhia Street last Wednesday. Anyone with information regarding the suspect is asked to call 935-3311. Meanwhile, Honolulu police are asking for help finding this woman who was caught on camera reportedly hitting a dog. Crime Stoppers says the animal was struck numerous times just before 8 a.m. last Tuesday on Upai Street in Waipahu. The suspect is wanted for cruelty to animal in the 2nd degree. Anyone with information should call Honolulu Crime Stoppers. Their number 955-8300 or use the P3 Tips mobile app. Now to international news. Overnight in the Middle East, Israel's military intercepted the first ever Hezbollah missile that was apparently aimed at Tel Aviv. Hezbollah says the target was Israel's intelligence headquarters. Chris Livesay reports from inside Israel.
The heart of Beirut's densely populated southern suburbs targeted in yet another airstrike, with Hezbollah later confirming Ibrahim Kubaisi, the leader of its rocket and missile force, was among the dead, as tens of thousands of civilians flee the Israeli military's bombardment of Lebanon's south and beyond, many with no clear idea of where to go. Since Monday, hundreds have been killed and thousands wounded, including children, according to Lebanese health officials. This man, pulled from the ruins of what was once his home, barely survived. Israel says it's only targeting Hezbollah military infrastructure and missile launch sites. Hezbollah says it won't stop shooting until Israel pulls out of Gaza, while Israel demands Hezbollah stop its attacks so that around 60,000 of its displaced residents from northern Israel can return to their homes, like the battered ones we saw in the town of Kiryat Bialik.
Hezbollah has fired hundreds of rockets and drones across the border with Israel in the past week alone. Now, most of them have been intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome defenses, but not all of them.
And this morning, smoke over the horizon of Tel Aviv, where Israelis were woken to the blaring of sirens after the Israeli military intercepted a surface-to-surface missile, the first time the Iran-backed militants have ever fired such a weapon at Israel's biggest city. A major escalation for an army that's badly outgunned and licking its wounds. In the past week, their booby-trap beepers and walkie-talkies exploded. Then, multiple targeted killings took out Hezbollah's top military leadership. Despite calls from the U.S. to de-escalate, the attacks on both sides are ratcheting up.
Chris Livesay, CBS News.
Turning now to politics. With 41 days to go until the election, both former President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are focusing on the economy, which is a top issue for voters. Skylar Henry reports from Washington, D.C.
Former President Donald Trump campaigned in the battleground state of North Carolina today, focusing on the economy.
If I'm elected president, we will have the world's reserve currency in better shape and order, and every country will follow it. And if they don't, we will put tariffs on that country, and we won't trade with that country.
Trump's visit comes as North Carolina's Republican candidate for governor, Mark Robinson, is embroiled in a scandal, with some staffers resigning in the wake of inflammatory comments he allegedly made on adult websites years ago.
41 days from now, we are going to win the state of North Carolina.
Vice President Kamala Harris is set to talk to a business group in Pittsburgh today. Tuesday, she looked to highlight differences on another key issue, abortion rights, calling for a change to Senate rules to secure federal protections.
I think we should eliminate the filibuster for Roe. 51 votes would be what we need to actually put back in law the protections for reproductive freedom.
That proposal was slammed as short-sighted by West Virginia's retiring Democrat-turned-independent Senator Joe Manchin.
Once you start down that in policy and on policies, you'll have everything under the sun thrown at and it'll dissipate. And then you flip-flop back and forth. You have no continuity whatsoever.
Manchin also said that he is not endorsing Harris. Earlier this year, he told Face the Nation he wouldn't vote for Trump. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Erosion is impacting Oahu's North Shore as a home fell into the ocean near Sunset Beach, causing a dangerous situation in the waters below. Officials, along with the community, are now figuring out their next steps. Our Casey Lund has more on this.
Aloha from Oahu's North Shore. We're just a little shy of Sunset Beach. A beautiful day here, but certainly an ugly scene developing and continuing to develop at this home off Kainui Road. Take a look at just how hazardous this is. All of those different building materials, lumber, things with nails in them. And if you zoom in a little closer, you'll see even trickling water that appears to be coming from some kind of plumbing. And that's what's really frustrating here. This is a mess, and it doesn't seem like anyone's really jumping at the chance to clean it up, and that has a lot of the homeowners frustrated. What we know about this home is that it was owned by Josh Van Emerald. He was fined $77,000 in 2022 after he tried to fight erosion by pouring concrete on the beach side of his property, and many homeowners here on the North Shore are trying to find remedies like that. They're not all, of course, legal. The situation is all too common here. People purchasing homes to rent as Airbnbs, sometimes full well knowing the situation that they'll face with erosion. We spoke to residents yesterday when this home really started to collapse. They were trying to pick up pieces of the debris. With a new swell coming today, some are worried that entire home may come down.
Well, right now we're just beginning the winter, so you know the west, we're gonna have constant high tide. We got the waves coming tomorrow too. The things are gonna hit, and what are they gonna let it just collapse? On a state perspective, if the bank own it, what's the solution? Let that thing collapse and go into the ocean.
Without using expletives, holy crap, to be exact. I didn't think that the waves would get that high and be able to actually erode that much to the point where it fell down. We were noticing there's like concrete up there, and yet the concrete didn't do anything. Everything's still falling straight into the ocean. Like there's just the fence hanging there.
One of the big challenges with removing these homes and dealing with these neglected properties is removing the cesspools that come with them. There are 2 under this home, according to State Representative Sean Quinlan. And when you have to deal with those cesspools, it also involves the Department of Health. There are Department of Planning and Permitting issues, and of course the DLNR, which deals with the shoreline. And as you look down, you'll see this is just really the beginning. Those sandbags that are put in front of the other homes down the shoreline here, they're starting to erode. We're going to see more of these problems continue. Governor Josh Green said he is hopeful that a package of legislation that is going through the legislature will address some of this, and that may include a $6 to $8 fee, visitor fee for incoming visitors per day that would go to climate issues like shoreline erosion. We'll see if any of that happens. Meantime, the folks that live up here are frustrated with the lack of solutions. Reporting on Oahu's North Shore, I'm Casey Lund, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you so much, Casey, for that report. And it is Wednesday, which means it is time for our weekly crime roundup. And joining us in the H&N Digital Center is Sergeant Chris Kim of Crime Stoppers. And you have more cases for us today. What can you tell us?
I got a couple of cases I want to highlight. The first case is this robbery in the second degree that happens on Saturday, September 14, 2024, at about 9:50 a.m. The victim was walking to Windward Mall when he's confronted by these 2 males right here, who then physically assaulted him and took his property. Both suspects are being described as unknown males between 19 to 20 years old. We do have their video posted over on our website. I'll give the information shortly. Our second case is actually theft in the second degree. Theft in the third degree that happened on Sunday, September 8, 2024, at approximately 3:58 p.m. These 2 individuals walked into the Home Depot Pearl City and stole numerous property. Suspect 1 is being described as an unknown Caucasian female. Suspect number 2 is being described as an unknown male.
All right, and we have a few more cases as well.
Yeah, and as far as our third case, it's a theft in the second degree on Monday, September 16, 2024, at about 5:05 p.m. This male and female entered the Halaulani LCC rail station and stole one of those AED packs, the automated external defibrillators, which is actually valued over $750. Both suspects are being described as unknown, male and female. All 3 cases we talked about can be seen over at the www.honolulu.org website, bottom left-hand corner, under wanted persons.
Now that is a rather odd thing to take. When you open those doors, doesn't an alarm go off in that moment, or?
Yeah, it's actually quite shocking.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you did there. And Chris, we do have time for one more.
I want to highlight this case right here. It's actually a cruelty to animal suspect. We're actually trying to identify this female. She was captured in video surveillance, basically striking the dog numerous times and then just basically grabbing it by its collar. This happened on Tuesday, September 17, 2024 at about 7:53 a.m. Over on Upai Street in the Waipahu area. So if you know anything about this case, please contact us at Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300 or download the P3 Tips app available on your smartphone or tablet.
Heartbreaking to see that animal just clinging right there. So hopefully, if you recognize any of the suspects featured today, you'll go ahead and give Crime Stoppers a call. Sergeant Chris Kim, thank you so much for joining us here. Let's send you live outside now through the eyes of our tower camera. It's a beautiful day here in Honolulu, looking toward Honolulu Harbor. Stay with us. We'll have a really cute story at the end of the show regarding a very special celebration over on the island of Kauai. Stay with us.
How's it on this Wednesday? Our weather remains very, very nice and mostly dry. Not totally dry, but mostly dry. There is a disturbance we're watching, but not expected to develop into anything significant. But it's a fair bit of moisture expected to pass to the south of us. And you can see it is fairly dry this morning. There are a few showers heading for a handful of the usual windward spots, but significant rainfall is not expected anytime soon. These winds will hold firm probably through Friday, and that means comfortable humidity levels. Whatever rain comes in will be moving out quickly because the winds will run pretty swift at about 10 to 25 miles an hour. So it's going to be quite comfortable. Lots of sunshine. That, my friends, is the best weather on the planet expected through the weekend as well. And as far as the surf, the solid swell that peaked last night will be holding firm today, slowly dropping in the afternoon. Still overhead sets. It's for the inexperienced, it's going to be dangerous, but for those in the know and those experienced ones, yeah, they're having a good time. 2 to 4, a little boost on the south shore that continues today. But heads up, box jellyfish will be swimming in today, tomorrow, probably through Friday, and they should be gone over the weekend. So we've got a nice long stretch of weather. Breezy trade winds through Friday, lighter winds, maybe even corner winds Saturday and Sunday. And during this time frame, we'll get some afternoon clouds, higher humidity levels. It's going to be a sticky weekend, but still lots of sunshine expected. And then those trade winds slowly make their way back early next week.
Plans are underway to bring Honolulu's rail system into downtown. HART CEO Lori Kahikina joined our team on Spotlight Now to discuss the difficult task of bringing construction into the very dense and congested area.
In Spotlight Now, we caught up with Lori Kahikina, the CEO of HART. She gave us an update on the project as they head into what she described as one of the more challenging portions.
This is the third segment of the project. It runs from Middle Street to South Street. She says because it is in that downtown corridor, she says it will be quite risky.
There's just no space. There's so much congestion. There's buildings all over their place. The utilities are so they're squeezed into such a small corridor. So the contractor won't have the space to just sprawl out. Even the base yard that we're giving them in downtown is so tiny. I believe Tutor Perini, they're going to be much more linear in their work. Although one thing that they pose to us, they don't want to just go, let's say, from east to west. They think to save time, they can start, and because they've changed the construction methodology, they can start multiple locations, maybe 2 locations, maybe 3, and then meet up in the center.
Kahikina very publicly battled with the HART board over a new contract. She has since signed one, but says that there are still a lot of issues to be worked out.
Things have gotten a little bit better. I think we can both sides be professional and put the project first and put things behind us, but we still need to, yes, conduct ourselves professionally on both sides so that we don't have this unnecessary attention brought to us. When we have a big major construction project to do, we don't need all this ancillary noise ongoing.
One of the conditions of her contract is that Kahikina is required to undergo leadership training in the next few years.
You can watch the full interview by heading to hawaiinewsnow.com. Next week, we highlight tourism. HTA is having their annual tourism conference. Join us at 1 o'clock on K5.
And in today's Good News Now, it is a very special day as we are taking a moment to celebrate a beloved Kauai woman and a longtime friend of mine. This is the story of my childhood neighbor turned lifelong friend, Mrs. Akio Matsuyama. She has finally turned 100. For many years, my family lived across the street from her in Lihue, and nowadays I stay in touch by visiting her when I'm on Kauai at her independent senior living community. During our last visit, she praised Regency at Puakea staff for the great care and their aloha. She also went down memory lane, recounting what it was like growing up near Kauai's halfway bridge many decades ago.
Main thing, we used to swim, climb tree, pick mountain apple, mango, guava. We used to swim and fish a lot.
A painting by her son of her childhood home now hangs in her living room.
I just had good life. I don't know.
We also went on a walk, and my mother and I were the ones that needed to keep up with her. In fact, that's her key to a long life.
I cannot stay still. I like move around, Stay active, yeah? Take part in things.
I also learned that in addition to running several successful businesses with her husband, she spent many years advocating for the memory and honor of Korean War veterans missing in action. Her brother, Army Private First Class Takeshi Sasaki, was one of 5 soldiers from Kauai whose fate is unknown. Her family says she spent years searching for answers and worked to memorialize the fallen, getting federal agencies to dedicate plaques in their honor.
She just didn't want these Korean veterans to be forgotten. And I think she just had a special place in her heart for these Korean vets.
The family says the last known record of her brother was that he was wounded in battle and awaiting medical care. The rest remains unknown. Today, she enjoys a much simpler life, focusing on her quilting and crafting, and of course, daily walks. As the matriarch of Kauai's Matsuyama family, a tight bond with loved ones is a lesson passed down through her family tree.
My dad and my mom, as busy as they were, we all grew up emphasizing family. They had a very good social life as well. They made time for the family and friends.
And neighbors, too. Happy 100, Mrs. Matsuyama. Dylan and Cheta, Hawaii News Now. The warmest well wishes to her on her big day 100. We are so happy that we can celebrate it with you, Mrs. Matsuyama. Thank you so much for all the years of friendship. And we want to end today's show with some news from the feeds. An architect across the pond is using one of nature's hidden gems to help create a cleaner planet. CBS's Tina Kraus has this story.
There's an art to enjoying oysters in the shucking, preparing, and indulging. But the shells left behind hold another treasure for UK architect Muka Sisurayotin.
So we're currently collecting the oyster shells waste from local restaurants in East London.
Oyster shells have the same chemical composition as limestone, a key ingredient in cement. So she decided to mix things up, creating an eco-friendly material called oystercrete, with the cement industry responsible for up to 8% of global CO2 emissions each year.
All the composition within this material is all natural, and the key ingredients 80% oyster shells.
Sisurayotin's design studio is filled with things made from oystercrete, including countertops, tables, and trays.
So then it can go back into the restaurants and they can serve oyster on a tray. So it's like a fully circular process.
Chef Will Bowden, who has his hands on oysters all day, loves the idea of giving shells a new life.
I'm someone that's always up for a bit of recycling, reusing, and it's a great idea.
Sisurayotin is looking to scale up oystercrete production to create practical bio-building materials.
Wall cladding, interior design.
And with millions of tons of shells thrown out globally each year, she believes the world really is her oyster. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
And let's send you live outside now for a look once again through our tower camera here. It's another beautiful day here in Hawaii. Don't forget that coming up after this is Investigates TV. Here's a look at what they're working on.
Next time on Investigate TV Plus, this man spent a decade in jail waiting for his day in court.
We're not supposed to punish them till after a jury has found beyond a reasonable doubt that they're guilty.
His emotional release and an